Good afternoon, everybody. This is Anshi, and this is our Friday afternoon chair yoga class. For today's practice, you will need a blanket or a rolled up yoga mat. We are going to use this later to create a little bit of length through our calves. And then you also need your chair. Today's peak pose is a kind of a challenging transition between balancing on our hips with external rotation, balancing on our hips neutral, basically moving between warrior 3 variation and half moon variation. So I'll show you where we're headed. If you don't know the names of the poses, don't worry. Basically working on our balance and our strength. So we're getting started just in sitting with our feet grounded. And before we come into movement, just maybe close your eyes so that you can sense your feet a little bit more easily, or you can just take your eyes downwardly. And then you can spread your toes and just notice how your feet connect to the floor right now. Give yourself 3 focused breaths, just sensing your connection to the ground through your feet. And on the exhale, you can sigh the breath out long and steady. Good, and after those 3 breaths, scan up through your lower legs, scan up into your knees, into your thighs, into your hips, and noticing your sacrum here on the ground or on the chair, and notice your whole pelvic bowl on the chair. And you could even shift around a bit to sense those sit bones and your contact with the chair better. And then also noticing your spine here from the sacrum up into your low back, your middle back, upper back, and neck and the head. And just be curious and notice what your physical being feels like right now. The quality of your whole body. And also noting the quality of your breathing here right now. And take note as well of your mental space and your emotional space. So checking in and notice where you're starting from in your practice. Okay, and then we're going to start movement from the base of the spine. So feel your sit bones here on your chair, and then explore rolling back on your sit bones so that you feel your low back starting to round, and then let that flexion carry up into your middle back, up into your upper back, and then you can let your neck, your head all just kind of come into that C curve. And then shift and let the weight roll forward on your sit bones, and notice how your low back unrounds and it arches, and then let that movement carry through into your upper back. And then you could even drag your hands back on your thighs to open up the chest more. And next time when you inhale, push with your hands. Let your pelvis tuck into sad tail and explore letting your spine round. When you inhale here, can you feel the breath massage into your back body more? And then when you rise up, pull your hands, untuck your tail, and notice when you exhale here, if you can sense like your abdominal wall, stabilize and give your low back a little more support. So spinal flexion, spinal extension, just in a range that feels good for your body. You can choose to migrate down in the flexion into a forward fold as well. So you can choose the range that you want. And then when you come up, you can pull your hands towards your hips more. So a few more rounds of this spinal movement. So I'm kind of growing my flexion into a forward fold. And then when I come up, I'm coming up with my hands on my legs, just sliding. Good. Next time when you're back in center, take a little pause. Okay. And then feel your sit bones again and land evenly between the front and the back side of the sit bones. And then we're going to shift the weight over to the left side. See if you can press down on the left and let the right sit bone come up. You can cinch your waist, so it's a little bit of a side bend. And then lower that right sit bone, press down, and then hike up on the left. And there's like a little mini side bend. And drop. Push down, lift the other sit bone, side bend. And again, you're exploring your own lateral bend here. I can feel this side is really tight and it doesn't want to do anything. So there's a quality of shifting weight, pushing down, and then shortening in this waist. And then the neck goes. Same thing, shift, push down, shorten this waist, side bend. Okay. Another way to do this is just keeping the sit bones down and just finding your side bend, without all that fancy business with the sit bone. So, and then you can kind of rock a little bit like this, side to side. Let your spine find its natural range through the lateral bends. Okay. And then come back to center. Good. And from here, shift the weight in a circle through your sit bones. And let this move your spine in a spiral fashion. You can choose to widen the feet to get a bigger movement through your hip circles here. So we're just loosening up the spine, the back first. Good. Play with the size of your circle. You can synchronize your full breath with your full circle. And then go in the other direction with your hip circles, shifting weight through your sit bones. And then you might even notice as you're shifting weight from the base on the chair, you can also feel the weight shift through your feet. So noticing how your feet also are shifting weight. Good. And then next time when you're more forward with your body, you can widen your stance. And we'll do a little kind of shoulder shrug action here. So you can shrug your right shoulder, internally rotate it, and then turn over to the left side. And then come back to center. Shrug your left shoulder, internally rotate it, and turn over to your right side. So it gets a little bit of a rotation into your middle back with a little shoulder internal rotation, a little bit of a shrug. Okay. And then last piece here, come back to more neutral spine. And you can lower your right arm down onto your right thigh. And you can side bend and lift the other arm. Good. You can choose to keep the arm straight if this causes any tension. You could bend the elbow and hold on to your head. You could also retract it a little bit. So adjust the loading for your body. And the advantage of this one is that you get a nice stretch through those intercostals here. So take some breaths here. And it also can feel good to hold on to the ribs. Yeah, so lots of variation with this top arm. Take another breath here. Good. And then push down on this hip. So push down on this hip to come up. Take a little mini pause. You might feel a little different between one side and the other. And then lean over towards your second side. Lower your elbow down onto your thigh. You could start with the hand on the waist first as you find your lateral bend, and then listen to your body. Maybe you're happy here and just breathing into those intercostals. Maybe you want to deepen the stretch in with the arm positioning. So what would serve your body best and what would allow the breath to be most free? Yes, you can gauge your positioning with the quality of your breathing. When the breathing is nice and stable and long and smooth, that's the best. Good. And then push down on this sit bone. So push down and rise up. Good. Take a pause. We'll migrate the feet back to hip neutral. And just check in and feel the quality of your body, the quality of your breathing now. We'll start to add in movement through the ankles and the feet. So I always like to get the calves moving a little bit, ankles moving through the rolling feet seesaws. So you can lift your heels, lower your heels, and lift the ball of your feet evenly without twisting your ankle. And then lowering down and lifting your heel. So it's like your feet are a rocking chair, foundation of the rocking chair. You're just rocking forward, rocking back.
Gee, we can't see your feet.
Okay. Toot toot. Heel up, and then ball of the feet, toes up. Good. And as you move through these two ranges, you might notice that it's not just your ankles that are moving. Like, can you sense how it's tracking the movement up through your knees as well? And watch for, again, any tendency to kind of twist from the ankle, and just try to lift in a neutral position so that we're working the muscles in symmetry. Good. And then widen your feet, and we'll do the same action but sideways. So press through the inner edge of your feet, and then press through the outer edge of your feet. Start the motion from your ankles and your feet rather than engaging the big muscles on your quads. And then notice how that movement again tracks up through your knees. And so actually this sequence is actually really beneficial for the knees too. And notice how it engages the muscles on the lateral knee and the medial knee as well. So the outer and the inner edge of the knee. Few more rounds of this sideways rolling feet seesaws. Good. And then walk your feet back to neutral. We'll do one more thing with the feet here in the chair. So we're going to stretch the top of the feet. So you're going to move the top of your right foot down. So there's hips, you might have to move over to the side of your chair, and then try to spread those toes as wide as you can. It's a little hard. And then kick into the floor so that you're activating the shins and you feel a stretch through the front of your foot. Good. Continue with that kick into the floor, just comfortable amount for your body. The other option to do this is to do this in standing. Is actually more load in standing. It's a little kinder in sitting. Okay, and then release. And you can just kind of wiggle, sense the difference between the sides, and then second side. Stretching through the top of the feet. The other version is just to come up and do it in standing, and it's a grander stretch this way. So if you're down here and you're like, I don't feel anything, you could choose to stand up. Okay. Good. Take another breath here, and then we'll release. Good. All right. So we're working towards these balancing poses, and there is a little bit of a rotation movement. There is some shoulder stability that we also have to have in the peak pose. So we're going to prepare the upper body for that, and with some twisting motions. So neutral with your feet, neutral torso, and then reach your arms forward. So you'll be in this position in a forward fold in standing. Yeah, and just trying to check out the way that your shoulders are feeling here. And then from here, see if you can wing your shoulders away from each other, so protraction, and then retract your shoulders in towards each other. So wing your shoulder blades apart, and you can let your spine, upper spine round a little bit. Pull your shoulder blades in towards your spine, retract. So I'm going to turn this way so you can see some of that action. So this is protraction when the scapula move apart from the spine, and this is retraction when the scapula move in. Protraction, retraction, protraction, retraction. Good. And so the scapula are most stable in between, right? It's a little bit, it's not all the way here, but it's not all the way here. It's kind of halfway. It's a little more protracted. And then there's this muscle that looks kind of like a hand that hugs your shoulder blades into your rib basket. So can you hug in like this to be stable? Okay. And then turn your palms together. And we're going to explore our twist here. So we're going to lift your right arm and just notice how that feels in your upper back, and then lower down. Okay, so lift the left arm. So this is our warrior 3 arm positioning. Notice how it affects your spine. Good. Couple more times, just exploring your range with this shoulder flexion. And then Also feeling your core stability here. Good. And then next time when you lift that right arm up, go ahead and turn your chest over to the right side, swing your arm out and over to the back. Yeah. And so notice how your core has to stabilize here as well. And then swing it back to the starting position. Neutral spine, pull those floating ribs down if they're popping up. And then lift your left arm. Rotate your middle back over to the left side and with a sense of trunk stability. And then rotate back to the starting position. Good, and keep finding your rib basket above your pelvis. So the tendency sometimes is, if we're really flexible in the low back, is to do this, or we might collapse. Okay, so keep finding that neutral torso. One more time, lift, rotate, feel your belly muscles stabilize. Good, lift back, turn back to center. Good, one more time, second side, lift, find your twist. Good, and then twisting back and shake it out. So just shaking out through those arms, those shoulders. Good. And noticing how that sequence maybe enlivened your sense of core awareness in the upper body. Okay. All right. So now let's come up through our chair squats. So you can have wider feet with the toes turned out a little bit, and let your weight shift forward, neutral spine as you hinge from your hips. Feel your weight land into your feet. And then from here, push down and just sense how this turns on your glutes. Yeah? And feel how your belly draws in as well. Okay. And then shift back. Okay. Shift forward, push as if. Can you feel your belly muscles knit in? So make sure that you sense that before you find that ascent. Okay, the glutes turning on, abdominal wall knitting in. Okay, inhale, coming back down. Exhale, shift weight, feel your core, draw in, push up. Inhale, hips back, knees bend. And explore. Coming up through these chair squats. You can choose to progress if you'd like. When you come up, you could try lifting your heels to add a little balance challenge. You can even, when you come down, you can choose to just tap the chair with your bum instead of sitting all the way down. So adding in some variations as you like. Good. One more time, coming up and down, and then we'll meet up in standing. And just take a pause and feel. Notice how your body is feeling after the little warm-ups. Check in with your breathing as well. Okay. And we're gonna get a forward fold just to feel the calves, and then we'll do that calf stretch. Okay. So you can stand either without the chair. If you want the chair support, you can do the forward fold facing the chair. It's up to you. So for some of us, you know, our forward fold feels pretty good like this, just hinging, hands on the chair. If you have more flexibility, you can go, you know, lower. So we're just checking in and noticing how our calves are feeling in the fold, how the hamstrings are feeling, how our feet, our backs. You can make little movements, little shifts as you like. And then when you're ready to come up, you can have hands on your hips and lift up with a neutral neck, neutral spine. Okay. Your blanket might be on the floor, like mine is. So squat, find your squat to pick it up. And we're going to use the chair for a little stability. Okay. I'm gonna roll, so I have a yoga blanket, and I want mine a little thicker, so I'm gonna roll it the short way so that it's thicker. So you want to adjust the thickness of your roll according to your body, according to the stretch sensations that you feel. So, and then to come down, knees bend, squat down, place the blanket, roll. So we're gonna balance on the left foot first. So we'll have the right foot on the floor, okay? And you're placing the ball of your left foot. So I'm mirroring you. The ball of your left foot on your roll. It could be a yoga mat roll. It could be a blanket roll. And again, you would just, so this is pretty intense stretch because I made it high and I haven't done this in a while. So adjust the height as you need to, okay? Where the heel is down on the ground. Okay, so your heel has got to be down. The ball of your foot is up on your roll. And you're stretching the whole leg long, and you can stack the hip right above the ankle. And that's where you're probably gonna feel a good stretch, yeah? If you don't feel a big stretch with it like this, make your roll higher. If that's not available, you can step the other foot forward, and that will deepen your stretch as well. Okay, we're gonna hang out for about a minute here. So we're always wearing positive heel shoes, and for most of us, we've done this all our lives. So that is going to necessitate that the calves contract and shorten. And when the calves are short, they actually limit our stride, like how much we can step forward. So it's a really crucial aspect of gait mobility and stability is to have flexible calves. Okay, take another breath here in this calf torture. So I haven't done this stretch in a while either. Whew. Okay. One more breath. Nice. And then step off of your calf torture and take a little walk around your space. Could be around your blanket, around your chair. See if you feel any difference in your gait, any difference between right, left side. Okay. And then for stability, you can pick up your chair if it's, you can move the blanket over. I'm gonna squat down. My chair is really light, so, okay. All right, second side calf stretch. So you're landing the ball of your right foot on your roll. Your heel has to be grounded. And adjust the height for your body. Stack your leg bones. And if you're not feeling a stretch, higher with your roll or step your other foot forward. Okay. And then hang out. Take some long, steady breaths here. So later when we do those balancing poses, there's a lot of stability that has to happen all the way up and down the leg. So I want to be, I'm curious to see how this stretch will affect that balancing. I think it can make it easier. Okay, take another breath here. Good. And then step down. Wow. And take a little walk around, see if you notice anything different about your gait. Cool. And you can just, again, your choice, you could squat down, pick it up, and chuck it to the other side of the room. Okay. The peak pose has a little transition point in our hips from external rotation. So I'm balancing on my right leg right now just to demonstrate, but you can try to feel this as well. Okay, so turn your leg out, that's external rotation. Turn your leg back to neutral, and you can even turn it more, so that's internal rotation. External, internal rotation, yeah? And then try it on the other side, external, internal. So here in standing, the hip bone is staying still, and the leg bone is turning in and out. Okay. In this next drill, we're changing which bone is moving. So in this hip hiker, the leg bone is going to stay still, and the ilium is going to turn in and out. So you're holding on to your chair if you like. Shift your weight over into your left leg and hover your right foot off of the floor, right leg. Okay. You're going to push down through this hip, and this hip is going to rise. So this is actually externally rotating here, and then lower that hip down. That's internal rotation. Push down, so the ilium is moving on this leg bone, and release. Okay, push down and release. You could try to hover on this, not land any weight on the right foot. Okay, so a few more rounds of this hip hiker. It's actually this booty that's working. Good. And then last piece, map this hip joint. Try to move this hip bone in a circle around the leg bone. So it looks like I'm trying to channel a hula dancer. So this engages more of that booty. And then go in the other direction, hip circle. Ilia moving on leg bone. Good. And step down. Whew. Find your squat and work your glutes evenly. Push down through inner outer edge of your feet. Lift your arch. So when you lift your arch like that, it will turn on your glutes. So we're working tonicity, or both sides in symmetry, and then push up. Take a pause, feel into your hips now. Let's do the second side. If you'd like, you can move your chair, or if you're comfortable without holding onto the chair, so your choice, okay? Or I'm holding it this way, okay? Shift your weight over to your right leg and hover your left leg off of the floor. If it's really hard for you to clear, you could place a blanket underneath. It'll make it easier to clear, but it's gonna make you have to work harder. So you pick, okay? Push this right hip down, and this left hip will just come up because it's connected. Release that work and hip hike. Okay, 10 rounds. This builds the stability in the glutes that we need in order to walk well. Good. And then after your 10 rounds, try to map this hip joint. So you're trying to move your hip bone around in a circle over your leg bone. And keep the focus on this hip. This one is just gonna go along for the ride. Ooh, am I gonna feel my left side is a little more sensitive. Go in the other direction. Good. land, step down, wider stance, find your squat, hips back, knees bend, and then again, lift your inner arch, even with the weight pressing down between the inner and the outer edge of your feet, your toes are relaxed. When you do that, can you feel how your booty muscles turn on more in the squat? Take a breath here, and then push, rise up. Good. Okay, so we just did internal, external rotation in standing in more of a closed chain. And now we're gonna change the orientation to gravity. We're doing it in a forward fold, okay? So face your chair, and we'll add in a little of our primal vinyasa first to loosen up the spine as well, just to make it feel good. So hip hinge, knees bend, come down into your forward fold, okay? And we're stretching the back by moving the hips back, and you can let the knees bend. And then shift your weight forward, so it's more relaxed right now. It doesn't have to be a full plank, and just explore shifting forward and then shifting back with the knees bend, pulling your sit bones back, stretching your back out. You can go at your own pace. Maybe before coming back forward, you want to hang out and move your hips a little bit side to side. And then you can pick up and round your spine as you go forward. And then you can let your spine come back to more of a neutral, and then shift back, stretch your back out. A little bit of a shift in the hips, side to side, little happy tail wag. Round your spine, undulate it forward with flexion, and then release that flexion. After a few rounds like that, you can then choose to move your feet further away so that when you go forward, you can find your plank. Okay? So your choice. You have lots of variations. You could do this version. You can stay here, and you could just stay closer to the chair and move a little bit through flexion, extension, a little more gentle, less loading on the arms. Okay. And we're gonna shift forward. And from here, come into, so shift around so that your positioning is hips roughly above the ankles. Yeah, and your choice. You can hold on to the side of the chair. You can have your hands on the chair, whatever works better for your body. We're shifting the weight into the left leg, and we're lifting the right foot an inch off of the floor. Can you feel how your belly draws in to create that stability? And then swing the leg behind you in a comfortable amount, but not so high that you turn the toes out. Right now you're trying to keep your hips level. So you can even touch your sacrum to check. Okay? Good. And then from here, push down through that left leg and externally rotate the right. So now that right hip will rise up and the toes will point out. So the moon rises is one name for this drill. And then level the hips again. So come back to level hips and then externally rotate and then internally rotate. So similar joint action, different orientation to gravity. external, internal. Can you feel your trunk working really hard as well? Okay, one more round between the external and the internal. Good. And then swing this leg back to the starting position. Land your feet down, stretch your hips, your glutes back out, bend your knees, shift your weight, breathe. Good. And go ahead and shift your weight all the way onto your feet, elbows land on your thighs, and push, rise up, sweep your arms up as well, hands to your heart. So we get to get off of the hands a little bit here. Pause, feel into those hips, noticing your stability here. Okay, second side, so you can lift up with the arms, and then soft with your knees and hinge forward. Your choice, you can step back and do the squat dog plank. You can have your feet closer to your chair and do a variation that is less load on your hands. So you could be closer, and you could do something like this. Okay, so your choice. A few more rounds, squat to plank. And then next time when you're back in that squat, adjust your legs for that moonrise variation. And you might have to move back forward so that shoulders are above the hands on the chair. Okay. Balance through your right leg and push down through that hip and try to hoover or suck the left leg bone into the left hip socket. And when you do that, can you feel your belly muscles turn on? Okay, and then swing that leg behind you. Turn the leg out. Turn the leg in. Another variation here is you can go down to your elbows as you do this. It's actually going to increase the work on the core, but it might feel better on your hands and your wrists. Okay. So turn out, turn in, level those hips. Couple more times. Good. And then next time when the hips are level, nice and slow, swing that leg forward, land the foot down. And then again, bend your knees. Stretch through your glutes, your hips, shift weight. And then draw your elbows back onto your thighs, squat. Exhale, rise up. And come down with your arms, hands to your heart. Take a breath here. We'll build from that half moon sequence, and we're going to add in basically lifting an arm. When the hips are balanced, we lift the opposite arm into a warrior 3. And then when the hips are uneven, we come into a half moon balance. So chair stability is really important for this. So make sure that your chair is stable. Mine's a little tricky because you can see how the weight of it is, it's not right underneath this part. So I have to be really careful. So make sure that your chair is stable, okay? So I'll guide you. I'm gonna show you first, okay? So we come back, we will do some rounds of the moon rise, 3 rounds. And then we find our level hips. And then we lift the opposite arm, opposite leg, balance. Okay, and then we lift the hip. We can lower down onto the elbow And then we lift, same side, arm coming into a side balance. And then we come down, we do the hip hikes again, okay? So come onto your forward fold. Extend your right leg back, core stability. Find your moon rises, just 3 rounds, external, internal. External, internal rotation. Good. And then level your hips. Yeah, neutral neck. You can totally just stay here. If you want to challenge your core a little more, your upper body a little more, you can lift your left arm either to the side, elbow bent, or forward. But you want to find belly strong, hips stable and even. Yes. Good. And then lower, ground that hand down. Good. And you can come down onto the elbow, the left elbow, to be more stable. Good. And now open this right hip out to the right side. So right hip rises, the toes will point out. Good. And then you could turn your upper body over to that right side, and then you could hold on to the top of your chair, the back of your chair with your right hand. So you get a little support in your half moon with the chair. Yes. Good. Take some breaths in this half moon. And the advantage with the chair is that you get a little bit more of a turn with that support of the back of the chair. Good. And then ground your top hand back down, level, turn your chest back to the chair. Good. And then lower this foot down. Good. Stretch your hips back, shift, move. You can make circles, whatever you like. Nice. Good work. Good work. It's not easy. All right, second side. So find your half forward fold, hands back on your chair. Check your hips. Are they roughly above your ankles? Are your hands underneath your shoulders? So you'll be more stable when the joints are lined up. Good. Neutral back. Shift your weight over to your right leg and draw, like suck the left femoral head up into the left hip. Feel your belly turn on, and that foot will just hover off of the ground. Yeah. And then swing the leg back behind you. Level your hips here, explore. Moon rises. Rotate it, let that hip rise. And moon lowers, let that hip balance out with the standing one. Good. A couple more rounds like that, just finding that external rotation, that internal rotation. Yeah. From your trunk stability. Good. Now level your hips again, toes are pointing down. Neutral neck. You choose. Do you want to lift the right arm in opposition to this left leg? Nice. And take a breath here in your warrior 3. Beautiful. Good. And now lower that hand down. You can lower the right elbow to your chair for more stability. And now lift that left hip, let it externally rotate and open out to the left side. Yep. And you could choose to lift the left hand and hold on to the top of your chair, the back of your chair, so that you can turn your upper body more. Yeah. Good. And be strong through that heel that you're lifting. Press the heel away from the hip. Good. Take another breath here. Nice. And slowly, step by step, hand goes down, turn the chest towards the floor, level your hips again, and then slowly swing this leg, return it back to neutral. and then shift back. And you can make hip circles. Just release all that work through those glutes because that was a lot of work. Good. And come on to, find your squat again. And then find that connection between your arch lifting and your glutes firing. And push up with that activation. Take a pause and just compare, feel. Notice how your legs feel after that sequence between those two balancing poses. Good. We'll come down to the chair and we'll stretch out some of those external rotators. So in the chair, we'll stretch out the piriformis area in the figure 4. So for some of us, this can work, outer ankle on the thigh. If this doesn't work for your body, you could try getting like an ottoman, and it could be a little bit lower, something like this. Okay, so modify for your body. You can also choose to do this on the floor instead, so that is more stable. Okay. If you're doing the chair version, let the weight go straight down through your foot. So make sure, like your foot isn't like this. So foot underneath the ankle or underneath the knee in line with the hip. Weight is transferring through the bones. Okay. Pull your toes back to stabilize in the knee. And for some of us, this is enough where when the body is upright like this, you might feel enough of a stretch. If you want to deepen the stretch, you can shift forward and that will load more into this hip. Another place is if you're super flexible, you could put a block here and you can lift this leg higher. So, find the right position for your knees, your body. And take some breaths, long and steady, into the lower body on this right side. And then if you're leaning forward, go ahead and lean back. And we'll add in a rotation. So we'll press down through the sit bones, and then we'll turn the torso towards the knee. And then you can grab a hold of the back of your chair with your right hand, and then you can cross the left one over. So a closed twist towards this knee. Another version is if that doesn't feel great, you could cross it completely over and do it this way. Okay, so make sure your knee's happy. Good, take another breath here. And then unwind from that twist. And we'll release this leg. Come into a forward fold between the sides. You can stretch the fingers forward. You can stretch the fingers back through the other side of the chair. So your choice. And then we'll slowly roll up. Second figure 4, so line up the joints in your legs, and then you can place the left leg, outer ankle in the middle of the thigh, and flex the toes to create more stability around the knees. And again, all those variations are available. You can do this on your back in the figure 4. You can have this lower down. So find your level of stretch. And you could even, like I'm holding on to the joints, and that feels, it's a little slippery on the pants here, so I'm just kind of holding. Good. When you're ready, you can come into the twist. So press down on those sit bones, elongate the spine, and then rotate over towards that knee. You can also cross the leg completely over for more stability for this knee. Let your breath fully massage through your ribs, especially the back side. Good. And then we'll come out of the twist. We'll slowly release this foot down. And again, forward fold. You can widen your feet. And you pick the arm positioning that you like. Let your back decompress. Let your neck be long. You can even turn the head as you like. When you're ready to come up, you can come up by hinging with a neutral spine, or you can roll up as well. Okay, and we'll come into a resting position of our choice. Could be leaning to the back of your chair, could be lying down in a corpse pose, could be legs up the chair, which is really nice. Great, gentle inversion. And once you are in a position of stillness, feel your breathing now. Can you sense the movement of your breath downwardly through your back? Your inhale massaging downwardly into your sacrum, into your low back, into your tailbone. Can you sense the breath moving into your pelvic bowl, so into the whole lower body, into the space bordered by your tailbone in the back, your pubic bone in the front, your two sit bones on the side. So we did a lot of work with the hips and moving the thigh internally, externally, and all this engagement and stabilization. And it's helpful after stability work to also practice relaxation. So as you stay, can you get a sense of your breath flowing down into the pelvic floor here, the pelvic bowl, sense of relaxation, everything kind of stretching downwardly on the inhale, and then the sense of everything just kind of recoiling and drawing inwardly on exhale. Notice how your abdomen also expands and contracts naturally with this breath. feel as well the bony boundaries here in your pelvis, in your hips, sacrum, hip bones, pubic bone on the front. And then noticing how the bones ground this part of the body, how the bones give it a boundary and protection. And connecting with your feet as well. Feel the sense of ground again. And let yourself really receive this quality of support through the ground, through your bones, through your breath. Notice how your whole body feels when you're more connected to the lower body. Notice the quality of your breathing, the quality of your mind and your emotions now. And we'll join the hands together at the heart. And take a full breath to heart center and bowing your head to your heart. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. So I'm going to turn off the other camera.